A 39-point blowout in a series I called the real NBA Finals. This just might be a really good basketball team. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you have not already subscribed, go ahead and do that below. But today, we're discussing the Brooklyn Nets 125-86 victory over the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 2 of their second round series. A game in which, in my opinion, the Nets coaching staff had their best performance to date, unearthing previously unforeseen strategies while having every possible adjustment to throw this Bucks defense completely out of whack. Let's get into it, starting with the big guy, Kevin Durant, who dropped 32 points in the must-win game. So, Kevin Durant heard y'all, and by y'all I mean me, saying that Giannis Antetokounmpo could guard him. The adjustment for Brooklyn when Giannis was matched up with KD was to let Durant simply isolate and hit the former Defensive Player of the Year with some nasty crossovers. And it's very clear that Durant does not respect Antetokounmpo's ability to slide laterally, back and forth on every crossover move. When the Bucks switched things up and defended KD with Jrue Holiday, a terrific defender in his own right, the Nets adjusted again to the matchup, with Durant taking the 6'3" guard to the block. Jrue is strong and physical, don't get me wrong, but Durant has a solid 7 to 8 inches on him and can shoot over the top, which he leverages here. And then when the Bucks put PJ Tucker on KD, rather than having Durant isolate like he did against Giannis or post him up like he did against Jrue Holiday, the Nets brought a screen into the mix to take Tucker out of the play completely. Not only is it nice to remove a feisty defender like PJ Tucker from the play with a screen, but he also didn't navigate screens that well in Game 2, and I feel pretty confident calling this adjustment from Brooklyn a success. And if Tucker was expecting the screen, Durant can simply reject it by not using it and dribbling away from the pick and into a baseline jumper. Now, you may have noticed Brook Lopez drop back into the paint in a couple of these possessions, and don't worry, the Nets did too. I'm not really breaking news here, but Lopez isn't exactly great on the perimeter, and hiding him in the paint allows him to do what he does best, swatting away shots at the rim. Unfortunately, against a team like the Nets with pull-up shooters like Durant, Irving, Harden, and all the rest, that strategy of giving up off the dribble threes and mid-range shots is basically nullified. And Brooklyn's Game 2 adjustment was to go to as many screening actions involving Brook Lopez as possible to target the Bucks center and his unwillingness to defend the perimeter. Even on more disguised actions like this out-of-bounds set known as Chicago, which involves a player, Kevin Durant in this clip, streaking off a pin-down screen which faces the baseline, Joe Harris in this clip, and flying into a dribble handoff with another player, Bruce Brown in this clip. This set was designed to put the retreating Brook Lopez in a tough position, who gets beat by Bruce Brown scurrying behind him after setting the screen and handing the ball off. Brook Lopez wasn't the only pressure point for Brooklyn's offense. Bryn Forbes, a 6'2" shooting specialist with below average athleticism and strength, was a player that many expected to get targeted by the Brooklyn Nets. And well, that assumption was correct. So in response, Milwaukee attempted to hide Forbes with a hedge and recovery pick and roll coverage. Let me explain. How it works is that after Chris Middleton, guarding Kyrie Irving initially in this clip, is hit by a screen, Forbes jumps in front of that screen to take away the driving lane or the pull-up three from Kyrie Irving while Middleton goes under the screen. It's basically a very brief switch and recovery combined with an under. Once Middleton has safely gotten under and around the screen, Forbes retreats back to his original man. So the Nets adjusted to this by interrupting Forbes' recovery path after hedging those ball screens. And here, after Bryn Forbes hedges this Landry Shamet ball screen for Kyrie Irving, Nicholas Claxton nails him with a really nice down screen or pin down screen while he recovers back to Landry Shamet to give Shamet the open look for three. Speaking of Landry Shamet, his relocation abilities and skillfulness while shooting the long ball in the middle of rotating his body toward the basket were crucial in thwarting the hedging Bryn Forbes. Forbes. The Nets realized quickly that they had a brief window of space for an open shot right when Bryn Forbes jumped in front of the screen to hedge the pick and roll. Right at the peak of Forbes' hedge when he's facing Kevin Durant, Landry Shamet exits from his screen and sprints into open space to unload the clip, knowing that no matter what, Forbes is going to be trailing behind the play, desperately trying to recover. And with that tactic, Shamet was able to put up 9 points on 3 threes in just 15 minutes. He absolutely torched the Bucks for having Forbes trail behind the play as a byproduct of their hedging scheme. Things got so bad for the Bucks defense in game 2 that they began to just start spamming zone defense in the second quarter. And initially, I'll admit it worked, as the Nets offense got pretty stagnant with mostly side-to-side movement. But again, the Nets adjusted, inserting Bruce Brown into the game to flash into the middle of the painted area, which, if you don't know, is typically left open with how zone defense works. And being left open in the middle of the floor is perfect for Brooklyn's resident small ball center to get off that silky floater of his en route to 13 points of his own. Defensively speaking, there were some adjustments made as well. After switching basically every screen on and off the ball for essentially the entire season, the Nets switched things up. Get it? Refraining from switching on actions that featured Giannis screening to stay out of any mismatches of Giannis overpowering a smaller net defender, which of course would happen if the Nets had been switching. But more importantly, the Nets also ran a lot of drop defense against the Bucks in game 2, which we haven't seen much of this season aside from when DeAndre Jordan and LaMarcus Aldridge were playing. It was especially surprising when the Nets ran drop coverage with their best switch big on the roster, Nicholas Claxton. But I think the idea is that given that Giannis is the screener in this situation, I don't think the Nets respect him enough as a shooter and pick and pops, allowing Claxton to key in on the driving Chris Middleton, while Giannis basically stands at the perimeter doing nothing. You can go ahead and double my confusion when the Nets ran drop coverage with Kevin Durant, who is more than capable of switching and guarding the perimeter. But again, I think the general premise is that the Nets do not respect Milwaukee's shooting. And given that the Bucks are shooting 30.6% in the playoffs, who's to blame them? The Nets had every possible answer for the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 2, deploying specific strategies to target the Milwaukee Bucks go-to options and their specific players. This includes specific forms of offense for each player that guarded Kevin Durant, multiple forms of attacking Bryn Forbes in that hedge and recover pick and roll defense. They unearthed counters to Milwaukee's zone defense, and of course the Nets relentlessly went after Brook Lopez in the drop coverage, while deploying a couple of surprising strategies of their own on defense. Will these adjustments continue to work in the series? We'll see. But for now, the Nets win this round. And with that, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and go ahead and share this on Twitter and Reddit. Go ahead and slap me a follow on Twitter. I'll be doing a whole bunch of work on the rest of this series and hopefully for the rest of the playoffs if the Nets continue to play this well. It's all there, linked below. But that's all I got today, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace!